Russ, thanks for coming back on. I was sort of hoping you'd give us maybe just a little bit of an update on Jay Powell's Taj Mahal on the Potomac, as I've taken to calling it. What's new on that front, and is there going to be some kind of capital planning commission meeting or investigation?
We are looking at it. As you know, Larry, last week at the president's request, I sent a letter to Chairman Powell to look at the overruns for this new renovation, and it's obviously $700 million and includes all sorts of things like rooftop terraces. And there's issues involved with regard to the comments that the chairman made to the Financial Services Committee that are inconsistent with the plans that were submitted to the National Capital Planning Commission. And so we are working in conjunction with the president's new appointees there. We intend to do a site visit hopefully next week, and we want the answers to our questions addressed. And so we're at the beginning of that process, but we are taking it very seriously. As you know, Larry, the president's a builder. He finds it exasperating the extent to which this building is so expensive and the extent to which it is cost overrun. And we're going to look for as much of the information as we possibly get our hands on. Well,
sure. I'm sure the president could have done it half the cost. I'm sure of that. He was a great builder in his day. I was reading the Federal Reserve's fact sheet, frequently asked question sheet. They put out quite a lengthy one, so you shook them up. They're basically, if I can summarize, they're saying that they have worked cooperatively with the Capital Planning Commission, but they are independent of that commission. Now, that sounds like, that sounds like they're not going to take any orders from anybody, which is their usual position anyway. How do you see this? What kind of authority does the commission have in terms of the Fed and its renovations of the buildings?
Well, again, the proposal was agreed to in 2021, so they obviously went through the National Capital Planning Commission, so it's a little odd for them to be asserting this now. We heard their legal argument. The National Capital Planning Commission has an opportunity to reassess this, to ask questions, to provide oversight, and that's what we expect them to do. We're working in close cooperation with those appointees, and again, we're looking forward to getting that site visit on the books as much as possible. And I go over there, Larry, because as the acting director of CFPB, I go to the Martin building. The Martin building is the #2 building. It itself is incredibly well maintained and something that is incredibly modern. There's artwork everywhere. And I think this gets to the question of what is the extent of which the Fed is just building buildings to build buildings and to have these big operations on the National Mall, as opposed to focusing on the job that is supposed to be doing. You know, the president thinks that Jerome Powell is always too late, and we want to get to the bottom of which this renovation is really approaching the reasons for why it's approaching the cost of the actual Palace of Versailles if you were to update it for today's dollars. That was $3 billion. This is $2.5 billion. This is astronomical.
So, this comes against the current Washington culture zeitgeist under President Trump. We want fewer workers. There are going to be more rifts, downsizing of staff, downsizing of buildings. I'm going to get to the Recisions in a moment, but DOJ has done its financial audit, or they're in the middle of it. I mean, the Fed is going one way, and the rest of Washington is going another way. I mean, to me, that's completely incongruous and becomes a big problem.
It is a problem, and it is a problem to the extent to which they believe they don't have anyone that they are subject to from an accountability standpoint. You just mentioned one example with this argument that they're not subject to the National Capital Planning Commission like everyone else on the National Mall. They're also subject to the review process of the regulations that are supposed to be coming into OIRA. They are not. So, look, the Fed is acting in such a way that they don't want anyone asking any questions. That's just not what the approach of our administration, the president's administration, is going to be to this. We're going to ask the tough questions on behalf of the American people and get to the bottom of this.
You still think, I mean, if you go through this, maybe it turns out that Powell did misspeak when he testified before Congress. Is there a problem here? Is there a cause for his resignation or his firing? In your view, the president said he doesn't want to fire him, but the president didn't rule it out because of the issues we're talking about here, the Taj Mahal issues. I mean, that story is not over yet, is it?
I think it's best to think about this from the standpoint of the questions in the letter that I posed to the Fed and the questions that the appointees on the commission are asking. We're looking at this from a policy standpoint, both from lower interest rates, that's a policy perspective, and from the standpoint of this Taj Mahal. We want to get to the bottom of it. This is not an existential question that the media wants to make it into, although we've gotten a lot of questions today on that front. The president has policy views, and he wants to make sure that all aspects of the federal government are managed properly, and this is in that vein.
Well, they should fall into line with the prevailing view. This is an era of downsizing the deep state of Washington, and they are very much part of the deep state. Russ, last minute or so. So the $9 billion rescission has gotten through the Senate. That's wonderful. On the website of DOJ, waste, fraud, and abuse, $190 billion on their website. I'd love to see a bunch of rescissions going to $190 billion. That's what DOJ came up with, and I think they have the backing of the rest of the country. So can we anticipate lots more rescissions for much bigger numbers?
We're definitely open to sending up additional rescissions packages. We wanted to see how this first package would go. It was intentionally small to make sure we could get the muscle memory going again, and now the Senate has proved that they were able to pass that critical juncture, and we expect a good vote in the House either tonight or tomorrow. And we're very open to sending up additional rescissions package. The number you referenced, though, needs to be read in conjunction both this fiscal year and next with the $163 billion of cuts that we sent up as part of our budget in the non-defense area to make eliminations, cuts, reforms to woke and weaponized bureaucracy. We'll be fighting for those cuts during the appropriations process. But yes, we are open to sending up additional rescissions. I think it's likely, and I think it's likely to come soon.
All right. Give him hell. Russ Vought, OMB Director. We appreciate it very much. Thanks for coming back.
Thanks, Larry.
Take care.